Hi, in this video I'm going to show you how you can build a whole app using AI, specifically V0 from Vercel that you see right now on your screen and Claude Code that I use inside Windsurf. I will demonstrate how you can save a lot of time and money by not getting stuck, by developing faster, by ensuring that you can save the progress of your work by connecting your Vercel to GitHub and then extracting this repo and then using it inside your own IDE or even on a server that you can then use with your iPhone or iPad. And I will demonstrate how you can also market your app in the end. So when you create something, we actually have a final result here, calculare.me. That's the app that I created. I will link to it in the description to the video and also at the top here, how you can actually describe it in a way that people can find it, those people who might be interested in what you created. I will be using the app that I developed, InfraNodus, for this, so that we will do in the very end. I will demonstrate how you can visualize what people are searching for when they search for things that are related to what you developed and how to understand what's happening in their heads, so you can use the language and keywords that they use when they think about your product and add those words in the descriptions of the page, titles, and in the descriptions of the pages to make sure that search engines and LLMs find it when someone is searching for something that you created. So we'll basically go the whole cycle from the first prompt, from having nothing and the first prompt, to actually creating a working prototype, an MVP, and then improving it using Claude Code later to give it the final touch, final design touch, to make sure the logic works correctly, and then putting it online, also on Vercel in this case, so that you have a finished product like this, and then also describing it and adding the tags that will make sure that this product is found by people who might be interested in it. So it's going to be the full cycle, and I think you will learn a lot. I think it's going to be one of my most useful videos, so I really encourage you to watch it until the end. And a little bit about myself. I'm Dimitri. I'm the developer of InfraNodus, one of the apps that I will be showcasing in this video. And I've been working on it for the last 10 or 15 years. I also run this channel to share my experience on using different AI tools and approaches and sharing my workflows. So if you find this content interesting, please subscribe to this channel to support me and make sure that more people can also enjoy this content as well. All right, so let's get into it. First, I will tell you what I actually wanted to build. So I had this real problem that I was experiencing myself, that I wanted to have a calculator that would show me how interesting it might be to invest into real estate. And what I wanted to know specifically is how much I'm going to get from renting it out, considering that there are some tax rebates available in Germany when you buy real estate, and whether it's actually financially interesting or not, comparing to renting an apartment, for example, and also comparing to investing into stocks and bond market. So I needed to build something like this. I didn't find anything that was satisfying me because it either doesn't have sufficient tax calculation or the details are not correct. So I just wanted to build something on my own because it's a big decision. And I wanted to make sure that I know that all the numbers inside are actually correct and that it takes care of all the little parts and elements. So this was my initial idea. I went into V0 to start developing this idea. And I want to show you that actually V0 is quite a good tool for that. It's from Vercel because one of the things that it's good at is that you can just start with a simple prompt. It also has really good design just out of the box. It just has good aesthetics. And the founder of V0 also mentioned that they really put a lot of effort into it. And you can also deploy your app directly to Vercel. So you can basically make it available online in just a few seconds. So this is why I like starting with V0 and then kind of developing it here. But then V0 has a problem because once you develop it in a few iterations, let's say by iteration 50 or 60 or so, it just starts yielding less return. So you're basically changing some small things. It has some problems, like for instance, each time you want to build a new iteration of your app, you have to wait a long time. And as you get to the end of your development cycle, sometimes you want to change little things like add a new footer, change something in text, and all this takes a lot of time. And if you want to go directly into code, it also kind of lags. Even on my computer that is quite fast, I find it's quite slow and laggy because it's from the browser. So it's not really good. So the workflow that I developed is that I do a few first iterations inside V0 just to give it a nice look and feel and to kind of program maybe the main logic. And then I branch this into a GitHub repo. I also, just in case, I also fork it as well here in V0. I'll show you how you can do it later. So I create like a backup copy of my app. I also create a GitHub branch, and then I clone it on my own computer, and then I start developing it further in the IDE of my choice, which is Windsurf. You can also use Cursor or VS Code. And specifically inside those IDEs, I actually use Claude Code that you can run from terminal. So I'm going to show you all these things, and basically Claude is then going to be used by me to give the final touches to the app and to make sure that I can just launch it, relaunch it, and run it again, see how it looks in the browser and so on. And I'm going to demonstrate how all of this works in detail. So the last step in this demonstration is going to be me also trying to understand how to market this app better, because when I put it online, I also want to be sure that people who are interested in this content can easily find it. So this is why I'm using the app that I developed that's called InfraNodus, that has this really nice feature that can visualize what people search for when they search for mortgage, in this case, in Germany, right? So then I can see that they search for calculator. So that's a good sign, because if I made a mortgage calculator, it means that they're going to see this. But also I see the keyword combinations they use. So this gives me a better idea for how I can describe this app on the main page using the header tag here and the descriptions here, and also in the page description and here as well. So basically it gives me an idea for the text I should put inside the app to make sure that search engines and LLMs find it easier. Okay, so we will go the whole cycle from creating until the end. So let's begin. First of all, inside V0, I'm going to show you how I usually start. I just, for this app, I actually wrote, I need you to create a web app calculator for me that calculates my monthly mortgage payments for a credit in Germany. So basically describe what I wanted, and then it gave me the first version. I'm going to click on it so you can see how the first version looked. Right, so that's actually what it gave just from the first prompt. Very simple. In a couple of minutes, I had this working app that would show me, okay, if the interest rate is like this is what the results are going to be. You know, this is how much you will pay monthly. This is how much you will pay totally during the first fixed period of credit, and so on, right? So it's pretty good. Like you see, in just one prompt, I already had a web page that was available that I can actually use, right? But then I started to add some stuff. Like I wanted to also see a table with a complete breakdown of payments month by month every year that would be scrollable. So I did this, and then it shows me a new iteration that looks like this, the payment schedule with the table. All right. I think I also asked it to show me a chart, but it didn't show a chart. So this is when you start running into problems. Like it does something, but then it makes a mistake. So then you need to kind of specify, okay, so you have the table, but now I also want to see the chart and so on. So you give it a few corrections, and by iteration number 8, I think I had something already quite good, relatively good, that I could use. But then when I started checking it, I realized that it's not really calculating some things correctly, because as you know, LLMs are not very good with maths sometimes. So I had to look into the code, also give it some clarifications, but basically it was not that hard. I just noticed something really obvious, like for instance, it was not taking into account something, and then I just said like, okay, look, this is wrong, this is how it should be, and usually it corrects itself. So at this point, it's pretty good. So by the time that I reached the iteration, let's say 50, I think I totally had 100 iterations. I don't actually recommend going so far. So on the version 54, for example, right, I had already an app that looked like this. I actually decided that I also want a rent calculator, because I want to see how much money I would spend on rent if I don't buy an apartment, and what the difference would be, right? But for example here, you see it kind of, yeah, it loads, it's fine. And then back into the mortgage calculator, you see it has much more functionalities now. It even can calculate like what the effective tax rate is, how much I would save on taxes if I'm making the payment, and if I'm getting the rent also for this apartment. There is some tax rebates in Germany that allow you to save on taxes if you buy real estate, and so on. So it's basically like, it's very comprehensive now, as you can see, and it even has 3 types of calculators. So all this was developed with V0 just by giving it prompt after prompt after prompt after prompt, and reaching a point where I started to feel that I'm getting less and less return on my time investment, right? And I think I should have stopped already at iteration 50. So this is one important lesson that I want to communicate, that if you feel like you're getting stuck and it's not really doing well, it's continuing to do the same mistake, just stop with this AI that you're using. Is a very good advice. And what I usually do then in this case, I will roll back to the version that I think is quite good. So for example, here, what's nice is that when you deploy it on Vercel, so you can actually deploy it directly on Vercel, it's going to be available via URL. So you can always check which was the good version that you deployed last. Here I can see that version 90, for instance, was deployed last. So I'm going to click on that version, and then I'm going to basically restore to that version, right? And what I'm going to do when I see that, okay, a few times it got stuck and now I don't really like the results, I will go to something like this, like the version that actually really worked. In this case, it's 69. Click restore, come back to it, and then what I'm going to see is the normal Vercel menu. And what I recommend you do at this point is you fork it into a new chat, so you save the good version, right? So it's going to be the fork, and that's kind of like your backup of the working version. And then you can also then go into this new backup. So that's completely clean, right? And then you can try to continue working from there, which would be one thing. So it's like a clean history. It's like clean slate, and then you start working from that clean version. What you can also do is to connect it to a GitHub repo here by clicking this button and connecting it to your GitHub account. GitHub is where you store code. And then just name this repo, just give it a name, and then say which branch this calculator should be on. So I usually choose not the main branch, but another branch like V0. So I know that everything I then push into this repo here on Vercel is going to be saved into V0 branch of the GitHub repo that I created. And this is when I decided, okay, so I'm going to stop using V0 because it was getting stuck, and I'm going to use another AI, and in this case it's Claude Code, which is really good. In fact, it's maybe even much better than V0. I will try once to make a whole app from Claude Code, but for now what I do is that, okay, so I basically get this repo inside my GitHub account, which is here, right? So this is what's saved from V0. I click on code, and then I copy the location of this code. Then I go into my terminal here. I think to change to like a new folder where I want to store this app. I change into this folder, and then I will type in git clone, and basically I'm cloning this app into here, right? And then when I go inside this, I change dir into this. I already have this app here. If you don't know terminal, you can just clone, just run this command git clone and the copy and pasted command, and then you open this folder inside Windsurf like I did here. So some of you who use V0 might have a question, why didn't I, for example, just download it here? Because it allows you to actually add it to Codebase by running this command. So the problem is that it will give you so many different settings that it's going to be very complicated to run it. So this is why I think a much better way is just to connect it to a new branch and then to use that branch inside your Windsurf. From my experience, it works much better and faster, because then what happens is that you have a clean repo like this, which you can then open inside your Windsurf, and then all you need to do is to open the terminal inside Windsurf. So you just do new terminal here, right? And then it opens a new terminal, and you type in Claude. If you don't have Claude installed, you need to install it into your environment, right? So you have the Claude here. And for example, if you don't know at all anything about terminal, you can just ask, how can I launch this app? All right, so you can even ask these very simple questions, and it's just going to tell you by analyzing the files in the app what you have to do. So it tells you like, okay, run this command, and then the app will appear. Even if you don't want to actually use terminal yourself, say run it for me. Look what happens here. It's going to run it in the background, and then it's going to tell you that the app is now available. And so when you then open this link, you will see your app appearing in your browser. So that's really good, because you can even ask Claude to run terminal commands for you, which I find is really cool. So you don't have to know terminal at all. And now, once you're in Claude, you can start changing stuff. So for example, you look at your app directly now in your browser, not inside V0, but in your browser, and then you start telling it things. Like, for instance, you can say, okay, what I want is to, for example, change this to Nodus Labs, right? So in the footer, change to noduslabs.com. Okay, so it's going to read your instruction, make the necessary change. It found what it needs to change, and then it adds this change, and then it asks you whether you want to make the edit. It shows you which edit it's going to do. You can even tell it no a little bit differently, but for example, you say yes. I usually actually use 2. I just let it do all the changes because I'm not exposing this to any production environment. And then once this is done, I reload the app, and now you see we have Nodus Labs here at the bottom. So that's really great, and this is how it works. And then, you know, with let's say if I want to add a new calculator, I can just tell Claude, okay, add a new switch at the top of the mortgage calculator where the user can choose a country by choosing a flag. Default is German. Give an option for French and USA mortgage calculator, right? So for instance, even a complicated thing like this where it has to multiply the logic, right? It's going to actually be able to do this. And surprisingly, you will see that it even now created like a description of the task that it's going to give. So find the mortgage calculator component, add country selector with flags, then update the mortgage calculation logic even. So it's going to do everything for you. Like, you don't have to do much, you know, and basically it's just going to keep on updating in the background without your involvement, which I find is pretty amazing about Claude. And by the way, here I'm just going to choose option 2. So you can choose 2, yes, allow all edits during this session, and then it's just going to run all these changes behind in the background, and then we will see in the end what it created, if it worked or not, right? But in the meanwhile, so while you're developing this app, it's much faster to do these iterations, you see, because Claude is doing everything for you, and you just reload it in your local browser. Some people also use external servers. You can actually set up a server on a company like Hetzner, VPS server, and then you can connect to it using your iPhone or iPad using the Terminus app, and then you basically install Claude there, clone your repo, and then you can run it directly from that server. So you don't even need a computer, like you can just do it from your iPhone, which is pretty cool. Look, now it already added everything, and I think now it's adding the logic, but you see it's pretty cool. Like, the logic is going to be changed, it has a flag, everything I asked is already here. It's pretty amazing, right? And so one last thing I want to show you is that once I built this app, I thought, okay, I want to expose it to the world, and specifically I would like it to be found by people who are searching for like an apartment to rent out, right? So what I did, I actually went to InfraNodus. This is the app that I developed to understand a little bit better what people search for when they search for mortgage and when they search for apartment to rent out, right? So this is the results of what people search for when they search for mortgage. So the word mortgage is actually hidden from here. I'll show you how you can run this in a second. It visualizes the words that people use in Germany when they search for mortgage. And for example, I see that calculator is searched for very frequently, right? And so that means that I made a good assumption thinking that it will be interesting for people who are searching for mortgage. But here it gives me a bit more specifics about the word combinations that people use when they search for mortgage. So for example, calculator for loan, Germany. So if I describe what this product is inside the app, I should probably also say something about loan here in the description and also here. And then I should also use some other word combinations. For instance, remortgage, repayment. So all these words, they should be used, because then when Google scans it, and when LLMs scan it, they will understand that this website contains all the most important terms that people use when they search for mortgages. And then the second thing I did, I'm going to show you how it works inside InfraNodus, is that then I ran another search on calculator. And I wanted to see when people search for calculators in Germany, what do they search for? So you just type in calculator, you choose the app that's called what people search for, and then let me just name it differently. You visualize the results and you will see what people actually want to calculate. And for example, I see that, okay, so a lot of them are interested in cost and loss. Actually, if the language is a bit strange, you can always change it to German here in the language settings, and then it's going to be much more precise on the graph. So let us reload the graph now. You will see that, okay, a lot of them look for free calculator. So this is also something I should add, that it's free. Then I see that they search for scientific calculator, but maybe that's not so interesting to us, so I will delete this. Online, iPad, free, also app is used a lot. And then I see some other clusters here. So for example, here I see that people search for calculator to gain weight, body weight index calculator. So this also gives me an idea, okay, maybe I could extend the offering to also add some calculators for other personal issues in life. Germany taxation calculator. So maybe this is one more to have here, Germany taxation option. And then I can also see here that there is something, let's say astrology chart. Okay, maybe this is not needed in this particular framework. But for instance, it gives me this idea that, okay, I could add also taxation calculator and tax calculator on salary. All right, so that could be something interesting, and it relates to the topic I know. So not only it gives me an idea for how to promote this tool that I developed, but also it shows me what other products I can develop from it. Okay, and one way how I can actually put it into practice is if I have this graph of the keywords that people use to find, for example, mortgage calculator. So I think here is the calculator one, right? I can say, okay, so I go into project notes, I create a RAG enhancement prompt. So this is like a summary of all the main topics here. And then I copy this here, and then I can go to something like ChatGPT and for instance say like, okay, I need to create a description of an app mortgage calculator that would also have these keywords in its description. And I copy what I just generated here. Then I can go to another graph that I created, for instance, for the calculators, right? And also copy the stuff that I generate here. So it's kind of like now I'm asking the AI to just generate something using the summaries that I created. So I also paste it here, and then I ask it to make a description. And here it's going to weave this idea. So here it says a free online mortgage calculator app that helps you plan your loan in Germany. So you see it's using all the keywords that were identified in the graphs, but now it creates a short description based on this. And it's in English and in German. So what I did, I actually created a version of this inside another website that I have on real estate. And I just added this description on top as plain text. And then this is an embed from the app that I developed. So basically when people search for anything related to mortgages or renting out flats or calculators, they will be more likely to find this content because it's using the words that they're using in this search, okay? And it means that they will find the calculator, but they will also be attracted to the website that offers you a service of listing your apartments online. So this is how the marketing part would work. You're creating the tool, then you're trying to understand what people are thinking about when they might be interested in your tool, like the wider context, and then you add this into your context window, and then you generate a description and titles for the website that would be kind of like making sure that you're mentioning all these topics. And then in the end, you can even go to Claude and ask it to generate like SEO optimize this website with this in mind. And then you copy this text, for instance, right? Like that we just generated in ChatGPT. And then we have the final result, and then it's going to change all the tags and the titles of the pages. Here, for instance, at the top, you know, all the H1 tags and so on, and then you will have SEO optimized website, and you will be much more likely to actually ensure that it sees the light of the day and that people can actually find it easier. So this is how it works. I hope you find this useful and interesting. Let me know if you have any questions about using any of those tools that I demonstrated in my workflows. starting from V0 to Claude Code to InfraNodus. I will also leave all the links in the description to this video. And if you have any comments, please also let me know, and I will be happy to help you. Thank you.